The theme of the overall Biennale is the front lines, and truly the group of you and many of the speakers here today are in the front lines of aviation. And it's a very important part of our world today. This phrase, 1 million people are in the sky at this moment. At any one moment, 1 million people in the sky is rather impressive and rather daunting in some ways. And it's going to continue to grow and increase. This is the ACI, Airports Council International's estimate of the future from 2011 to 2031. And 2031 is only 15 years from now, around the corner. You can see the growth of passenger trips in the world. Actually, the United States, it's only going to grow close to 1 billion. But in Europe, it's well over 1 billion. And then you can see in Asia, it's extraordinary. So this is a growth of people traveling and interacting and going places that is a problem, but it's also an opportunity. So in our firm, I'll just tell you a little bit about our firm. We have done a lot of airport work, some 30 projects to date. We have offices in a number of places in the United States and around the world. We've been operating for 36 years and have been fortunate to work on a lot of different projects. And one of the things about airport projects that is something that drives us is that it's an opportunity to affect people's lives and improve the quality of their life. If you work on a museum, which is sometimes what we do, public architecture, museums, city halls, courthouses, other public buildings, even stadiums, we affect maybe, if we're lucky, 1 million people's lives during the year. But in the airport world, one of our projects may have 30, 40, 50 million people flying through it in 1 year. So we were not originally selected to design the Denver airport. We were selected to do the working drawings and carry the building through. And once we received the commission, we were told that the project was over budget and by $75 million, and that they couldn't get the money to build it until it was brought into budget. And they wanted us to fix the problem. It was also a year behind schedule. And they told us that the mayor wasn't real fond of the project, and if there was something that we had in mind that might help to solve this problem, to bring it forward. And we said, what is it that the mayor doesn't like about the building? And they said, well, he doesn't think it's memorable. He wants something like that building in Australia. And I said, you mean the Sydney Opera House? And they said, yep, that's it. So we proceeded from that meeting directly to a bar, as any good architect would do, and started working on the cocktail napkins, and came up with this idea of a lightweight fabric roof that weighs around 3 pounds a square foot and 6 pounds a square foot with the structure to hold it up, and brought the building in $40 million under budget and created something that was iconic and dramatic for the city of Denver, which was a real bonus. For us then there, we moved into a competition in South Korea for the Incheon International Airport, which we were fortunate enough to win. And so we began to learn a lot about aviation. And each of these airports at the time was the airport of the future. Now that they have been built, they have aged, and things have changed. Life has changed and dramatically, but these buildings still operate. One of the things that we did with these buildings is make them very flexible so that change would be easy and easy to adapt the buildings into the future. So the Korean International Airport is about culture. It's about the place. And of course, the Denver airport was about relating to the mountains. So we began to introduce this idea that each airport is a gateway and a place that could be reflective of the place that it exists in, and creating a sense of place for that location. This is the capital of California, Sacramento, California. Another opportunity to create something that was unique and different and relate to the environment of this place. all the time trying to improve the quality of the experience for the passenger. Then this is a kind of an odd project that we got to do in Seattle, which was to create a retail area within the airport. And you just saw Pike's Market, that famous place where they throw the fish, and they always somehow catch it before it hits someone. We created this indoor piazza, which is a place that allows the passengers to have time to use their phones, use their devices, keep track of the schedule of their airplane, enjoy a coffee, a glass of wine, perhaps sit in a rocking chair and just watch airplanes, enjoy themselves a bit, and maybe create a space that and rather than it being a drudgery to travel through, but a space that they might not want to leave. They might want to just stay and watch the planes take off. Then the area of regional airports. This is the Raleigh-Durham International Airport, an airport with 30 gates that is very busy in Raleigh, North Carolina, but sort of a regional airport, giving this building a unique look that allows people in the Carolinas to have an association with this related to the hardwood production that is done in that area of creating musical instruments and creating crafts. Gives it a unique feeling that relates to the people of the area. They have a quality of handmade, mind-made things that are done there and part of the crafts. Blurring the lines between retail and seating areas, waiting for the planes, is a theme that we begin to develop in this project that makes it more comfortable for people so they can enjoy things to the last minute before their flight takes off. This one, Cupertino, in the Silicon Valley, capital of high-tech stuff in the United States, which is now spreading to many places, but this building was inspired by unrolling a computer cable for the image of the building and creating a space that was very dynamic, easy to flow through, a space where you're guided by light, and the building is intuitive in a way. So it's a part of what we've developed as a way to design airports, is making them intuitive and easy to flow through, so you don't need so much signage. And then one of our most recent projects is the Los Angeles International Airport, where we did the 18 gates for international air traffic and the next generation of aircraft that is flying. This particular project incorporates everything that we've learned to date, plus media signage, which is very appropriate, being LA, to incorporate entertainment as a part of the building and a part of the great hall space, an opportunity for people to spend time, since their dwell time in international terminals is greater. They have an opportunity to be entertained and to enjoy the space in the building. Again, another theme you see in all our work is flooding the building with daylight and bringing that daylight in a way that it's balanced so that people can enjoy the space, keep an eye on their plane, and enjoy artwork and the leisure time that they're spending in the building, rather than it be a space that is uncomfortable and something that one doesn't enjoy being in. So these are some strides that we have been making as we move forward in design we wanted to share. We also have started something in our firm that we do on a yearly basis, where we tap the young minds of young architecture students around the world through the Airport of the Futures competition, which some of you helped jury this final competition yesterday, and then the next month we'll be releasing the results of that. But it's an opportunity to engage young people and get their thoughts on what the future should be with airports and air travel. Now, I always like to look at the history of airports and the things that affect the way that we make design decisions and how we change things in our designs. So I go back to the Wright brothers, which I call the heroic age. And in 1903, they started. And the powered aviation aspects And it was pretty amazing how this was a novelty. For fun, they flew around Manhattan to demonstrate to the world shortly after this 1903 flight that man could fly, and it was astonishing to people. Within 27 years, you can see here, lots of folks had airplanes, rich businessmen, moguls flying. So in about a 30-year period, things took off. And then we get to the 40s, and we have this period of the golden age, and you see airports springing up around the country, the beginnings of commercial aviation. This is LaGuardia Airport in 1937, I believe. And so by 1958, there were 58 million people traveling, passenger trips, I should say, 58 million passenger trips happening around the world. And it's just a coincidence, in 1958 it was 58 million. We see interesting airport designs in 1962 with Eero Saarinen's TWA building, a very striking design that shows the inspiration of flight, the feeling of flight, and it was a very dramatic building. We start seeing other things influencing us in terms of design and ideas. And so we have lots of commercial things that influence us. We have cultural things. We have political forces that influence design. We have technology that influences design. As we go along, we have what we call the democratic age with Star Trek. And so, the movie business is giving us ideas that we can all travel to other planets. And pretty soon we believe it and we do it. Pretty soon some will go to Mars. So in 1971, we see a technology innovation in the design of airports in the Tampa airport with this monorail system. So airports are beginning to grow now to huge sizes, and because of the large airplanes and the large number of volumes of people flying. At the same time, there are political and other kinds of forces happening with things like this terrible event in Tel Aviv in 1972, a massacre at the airport. And those events, like this terrible event, happens as this building in 1973, the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, is being finished. And just as this is being finished, it is being, becomes obsolete just as it's being built, because the aspects of this building are to drive the cars as close as possible to the gates of the airplanes. And they were very successful in that, but now with the fact that we need higher security levels at the gates, you have to have a security position at every gate. So it becomes something that is very labor intensive and difficult, and immediately begins a remodeling going on. So we see other more efficient designs and examples with this, the Atlanta airport, where we have a big building that is in the foreground there, and then concourses with the underground train connecting those. Very efficient, highly efficient operation, but kind of not so interesting aesthetically. I call this the big box period in architecture. And then we have very minor changes happening as well that really do affect these airports. You have the wheel, which has been around for 4,000 years. And we have innovations that are constantly happening, such as this one. The wheel gets added to a roller bag, and it absolutely causes havoc with airports, because the previous two airports I showed you have tile floors, and the wheels make noise, bumpity, bumpity, clickety, click, through the airport, causing lots of noise and unintended consequences. The baggage, the ticketing areas begin to shrink at this point in time. We don't need as much ticketing and bag check-in. And then the airlines realize that the fewer people we have there, the more money we could make, because we'd have less labor. and all sorts of operational things happen. The trains at the airport that we worked on in Denver were undersized because the people doing the calculations didn't think that everybody has a roller bag with them. And because bags sometimes get lost, everybody wants to pack in a roller bag and keep it in their hand as they travel. So just the aspect of adding wheels to that bag dramatically changed the impact on airport design and the experiences we're having in airports. And of course, everybody's lining up with a roller bag to get on the airplane. So now it takes longer to load and unload airplanes. So we move through now into an age of optimism, I think. Renzo Piano's airport in Kansai, created on an island that was built in the sea. The Denver International Airport, our first entry into this, has now been in operation for 21 years. The Incheon Airport, 2001. And then in 2000, we see this introduction of kiosk. So again, trying to use less labor in the airport to be able to register people to get on the planes. You could get your ticketing there. By 2001, we had this terrible incident with the Trade Center towers and terrorist attacks. By 2007, you could walk in with your iPhone or your device. I guess you couldn't use your iPhone. Maybe it hadn't been invented yet, but you could go in with your device and walk through. Then in 2007, we see body scanners helping to move us through, facial recognition being considered. And then it took us until 2008 to really get these kinds of systems. These popped up, these big machines popped up right after the Trade Center towers in the lobbies of airports. And now they're almost, all the airports have now been organized in a way you don't see these machines, but your baggage now all goes through security systems in the lower levels of airports. We're seeing next generation aircraft. We're seeing lots of changes with the airlines that are constant. We're seeing a recognition by cities around the world that it's important to have aviation. The project I showed you in Los Angeles was triggered by this fact that every round-trip daily flight that's international into the city of Los Angeles brings in $623 million a year to the bottom line of that city in terms of a city's gross national product there, in terms of money. So it's not just the flight and the people paying for the flight and the fueling of the plane, it's the commerce and the business that's brought into the community by the airlines, by a round-trip flight. And then we have what I consider, again, part of this age of optimism, and that is Galactic Travel 2015. This was announced that Virgin is going to take you into the atmosphere and take you in, make an astronaut of you and take you around the world. So in 2016, as we said here today, we have 7 billion trips of passengers annually. And it's somewhat interesting to me to think of this as by 2050, we'll have 16 million trips a year in the sky, which is a lot more than we have today. So in our company, we created something we call a think tank. We invited aeronautical engineers, pilots, people from the FAA, many areas of the government to come in and sit with us and talk and think about airports and airplanes in the future, the near future, the more distant future, and to brainstorm what it might be. You know, we know the world is shrinking with globalization. We recognize, and I think many more people recognize today, that the city gate is the airport. Perhaps the first thing you see, the last thing you see as you travel to different cities. We're seeing more and more flights made available from airports to different places, so there's a greater opportunity to go places. We think that the airport has been historically, like on the left there, outside of town. We think in the future it's going to be more embraced as technology of airplanes change. They get quieter. The takeoffs, distances, and being able to take off vertically will change over time. The military now has vertical takeoff planes, and we think that about every 30 years we see things that are in the military and in research make its way into commercial aviation. So we think that these things will cause the airports to be located closer to the center of the cities and make it easier and less time consuming for people to take this kind of transportation. The multimodal aspects of airports won't just be highways and cars. Like we have here in Venice, you'll be able to take a boat to some airports. Technology and the integration of technology is a constant thing. In LA, we have media systems which are integrated into the building, and there's passengers want information and they want it now. They want it quickly. They also love to be entertained and enjoy the aspects of that, and everybody has these devices. And the devices are being incorporated into this sort of mobile technology of the airport knowing that you're there and you getting on a plane. So, Steve Jobs has had his effect. The seamless aspects of security. Right now you're in this line on the left, which none of us like. And there's lots of people that are trying to make this line just one direct thing so you can flow through the airport seamlessly and move through there without being felt that you are being checked like a criminal as you get there. I mentioned changes in technology, the idea of the wings moving back, more vertical takeoffs taking place. The folks that we invited to our think tank say that there's an enormous amount of changes happening with the design of aircraft. So there's lots of uncomfortable things that are happening on board, getting on and off airplanes. There's this idea of, instead of just one point getting on and off the airplane, that we maybe just remove the entire chassis of the plane. You get loaded onto the plane and you can be set into a chassis, and the plane just comes in, lifts off a chassis full of people. Another one is set on with their baggage, the fuel, and the plane takes off in maybe a 5-minute period. So there's a lot of technology changes that may take place. Sustainability is big, very important. We're already seeing many airlines ordering fuel that is not that is produced in different ways from plants, and it'll be a much more sustainable world as we move forward. Airports have great areas of surface, and this is a project that we did where we used the roofs of the garages to create photovoltaics. And the airports are also very concerned about the entire building being green. So, like the LA project was a gold project from a LEED standpoint. Financing is something we're going to talk about during our time here together. It used to be a very direct thing. Now it's much more complex. Public-private partnerships are being formed, which are giving us different ways of financing airports. And we think that in the future, you're going to see vertical airports as we have the opportunity for aircraft that can hover and come into a building, get closer to the downtown, and in the distant future, maybe 2162, that's a ways out, we might have this kind of a thing where you see the airplanes coming into this kind of a beehive type situation on the left of the city there, and docking, and then you go downstairs or you go through a bridge into the city system of buildings. So there's a great opportunity for all of us in the future to come up with different ideas and different things that will happen in our airports, and an opportunity to make it a better place for people. a place that will be exciting, thrilling, fun to walk through, an interesting passage, and not the sort of doldrums that we've gotten into with the big box architecture or some of the architecture that was created, say, in the 70s or 80s, early 80s, that made life a drudgery as so many people were traveling and the buildings were taxed and overburdened with people. So I'm looking forward to hearing other presentations today and seeing what you have to talk about in terms of ideas for the future today and tomorrow. Thank you.